Hello, welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live, brought to you by NordVPN. My name is Daniel Coe. I'm delighted to be joined by Record Sports version of the Neville brothers. Hey?
That's an old one, Jacko, isn't it?
Yep. What are you wearing, Daniel?
I've got my proud Scotland top on. Hey?
Are you planning on taking that at the World Cup?
You bet. This is all I'm taking.
Well, you'll be dining. You'll be a man dining alone.
Do you know, see now that we're on that, and look, this is awkward. Scott and I have been talking, Keith, right? I'll do it, Scott's fine. We don't think you're World Cup material. We're not sure.
No.
You need to prove it, I think.
Really? And what way did I do that? Listen, see in 5 weeks' time, when it's all over and we're coming back, and I've been hauling the pair of you about America on my back, then you can come back to me and talk about, am I World Cup material? You're the luckiest man in the world. You're lucky you're not Ollie McBurney.
That's a good point. And we will come to Ollie McBurney a bit later on. Scott, how are you doing?
I'm very well done.
Good.
Well.
It was just earlier today. I saw you for the
World Cup fever's kicking in.
We did the Scotland squad announcement earlier on today, live on Record Sports channels, and we'll come to the Scotland squad. Plenty to talk about there. But Keith, we want to have a look at the missing final whistle.
The missing minute.
The missing minute. Let's hear it.
There is a development in this, and it's an interesting one. Now, if we go wind back to Sunday's show, and I said to you that I thought that Hearts were preparing a statement about the aforementioned missing minute, and it didn't materialise, and that was despite the fact that a number of journalists had been informed something would be coming. Didn't materialise. It's now my understanding that on Sunday, I think Sunday afternoon, while this document was being prepared, the statement was being written, Hearts were in receipt of the audio from the officials at Celtic Park on the Saturday. I believe that it was sent to them by the SFA. I have asked for that audio. Unfortunately, that request has not yet been accepted, probably unlikely to be. I don't know why. But Hearts have listened to the audio. And sources tell me that in the audio, Don Robertson can be said saying that he's calling the game. Now, that doesn't explain the absence of a final whistle. As we've said, these were chaotic scenes. I think there needs to be a bit of common sense approach to that. As we've said earlier, there's no textbook for a referee in these circumstances how to deal with them. I think Don Robertson's done the best job that he can. All I'm saying is, and what I don't know yet is, so Hearts have got receipt of the audio. They've listened to it. They chose not to put out a statement that they were preparing for Sunday. Now, I don't know, does that mean Hearts are satisfied with what they hear and that the issue is now over as far as they're concerned? That is possible. Or is there something else in the audio that they want to raise subsequent questions about? I'm not sure. I'm struggling with why the audio isn't just being released through people like ourselves. We could have put it on this show. Everybody could listen to it, make their own mind up. There seems to be a reluctance to go down that road, but Hearts have got it. And they'll be basing, I'm guessing, their decision-making around what it is that they're hearing on that tape. And as I said to you, there's a belief that Don Robertson says clearly on audio at some point, at what point I do not know, that the game has been called and it's reached a conclusion. So there we have it. More questions than answers, probably. I have asked if Don Robertson was acting under the instructions of the police. That hasn't been confirmed to me. I think that until such times as this audio becomes more freely available, we won't be able to make our own minds up. But what I'm saying is Hearts at least are making their decisions based upon being able to listen to what was said between the officials at the sort of frantic closing moments of Saturday's game. So whatever happens now, if Hearts take it any further, it'll be probably because there's something in the audio they're not happy with. And if Hearts don't take it any further, then maybe they've heard, or heard enough to satisfy their position on it, or that of the SFA and the officials. But yeah, I think that is important because it explains a lot. It explains, we had a missing minute and then we had a missing statement. Now I think I've got a good idea why that statement wasn't released, because clearly there's been a lot of back channeling going on. And as I said, the officials at Hearts, they've listened to it. They've got it in their possession. They know exactly what was said by whom and when. And that's, I would imagine that the timeline's all pretty critical in this.
So, Jacko, are you saying then that Hearts have listened to the audio before putting out that statement? And
no, Hearts put out a statement originally on the Saturday night, Scott, saying that they were saying, about the safety and security of the players, explaining why they left the stadium, I think. And it's my understanding that they were going to allude to this missing minute in that original statement, and then decided against doing that because they wanted to release a second statement on the Sunday. That second statement is there's a missing minute and a missing statement. The statement didn't come, and I believe that before, or as they were working on that statement, and it was pertaining purely, I think, to the kind of circumstances around the game finishing, they were then supplied the audio and have based whatever decisions they've made since then. I'm fairly certain that they'll have factored in what it is that they've heard from that audio. Now, is that the end of the matter? I don't know, but it certainly would suggest to me that Hearts wanted to say something over the weekend and chose not to, and they chose not to after they'd listened to the audio.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully that's the end of it, I would say.
I don't think, hopefully, not for me. I'm not satisfied with any of it. I don't feel comfortable with any of it. And I think in the name of openness and transparency, I think the best thing would be for it to be publicly released, and everybody can hear what was said, and everybody can then make their own assessment based on that.
That's a good point. You'd have thought, why not just release it?
Well, that's why I made an argument for it, us being able to put it out tonight, so that everybody could hear it, our viewers could listen to it and make their own assessment. And I think once you're given that opportunity, and I imagine it will have to be released at some point, and when it is, then people can get a better understanding. I think also, on a purely human level, you'll get a better understanding of what it must have felt like to be Don Robertson at that moment in time. Because that was a horrendous position for him to be in, as well as a horrendous position for Hearts and their players. Horrendous for the officials, because they realised the importance of that game and what was on it and what the outcome meant. And they were left in that position of, what do we do here?
You think from the SFA's point of view, if they're satisfied that Don Robertson handled it accordingly and the game was declared over, given the furore after the game, I thought it would have been the SFA's best interest to get it out there as soon as possible to try and quieten down the noise, surely.
But the problem, I think, fundamentally, that everybody's got with us, Scott, is the game didn't play the minimum requirement of added time.
Of course.
And that's the circle that's really difficult to square in all of this. And I totally accept the common sense argument that was put forward by Des Roach last night. What are you going to do? Get the teams off the pitch, wait in the tunnel, get the pitch cleared. How long is that going to take? Take the teams back out, and then risk a second pitch invasion when the final whistle goes half a minute later or a minute later, whenever that is. So you're actually taking a difficult security situation and then compounding it. But again, it does come back to the fact that if you've got a designated number of minutes and added time, you've pretty much got to play them. I get the common sense part of it, but there's something unsatisfactory about the whole thing for me.
Yeah.
Rebel said in the comments there, Keith, that surely if there was anything Hearts were unhappy about in the audio they've seen, they'd be screaming for the rooftops.
You would that would be an automatic conclusion to make, Rebel. I totally agree with that, unless there was something in there that has required them to speak to legal people to get a further assessment on what their position should be if there's something in it that they don't like. And I'm not saying that that's the case, I'm merely speculating.
Aye, of course. We'll look at any updates, and I'm sure we'll be the first to break it here on Hotline Live, as we usually do. But the World Cup, guys, shall we move on to that? Because Steve Clarke has unveiled the squad that is going to bring home the World Cup.
By the way, do you know what you sound like there?
Go on.
Neil Doncaster and Ian Maxwell rolled onto one. Can we just go on to the World Cup, please? Here's a World Cup coming.
One of the guys, it was your loyal Muppet there in the comments, said, "Oh, Daniel wants to move on. I wonder why." So listen, I'm just a football fan, guys.
Yeah, you belong in Hampden's sixth floor.
You're for the love of the game. But no, the Scotland squad is out. You saw the 26 names there of the boys that are going to win the World Cup. We've seen all the names released earlier on today. Big surprises for you guys. Lennon Miller was the one that jumped out at me, not going.
It's a real blow for Lennon Miller. I think what you asked me about it the other night, what did I say to you? I said, you'll have 24 names in there that we could all sit and guess just now. I said, there'll be 2 curveball wildcard late entrants. And we've got them in Ross Stewart, and to a lesser extent Finlay Curtis, who obviously had got into that last squad ahead of this. This squad being announced today. We weren't sure if Finlay Curtis had done enough. Lennon Miller has been around this squad now on a fairly regular basis over the last year or so. So he'll be disappointed. There's no doubt about that. That will sting. But Steve Clarke did say that there's a sort of list on standby. You'd imagine that Lennon Miller will be on that list. And Kieran Bowie as well. I think Steve Clarke did confirm that Kieran Bowie is on the list. So the 2 of them will be really disappointed. But I think the one thing that you can say that they've got on their side is they've got time, and they are going to be significant players in Scotland's future. What I found interesting, and part of the reasoning that Steve Clarke said for the balance of his squad, the fact that he's named 5 strikers. So when Tommy Conway drops out, it would have been very easy for him then if just to keep Lennon Miller in. Mm-hmm. But he said in terms of the way that he intends to play, and I think he's probably talking specifically in the first instance about the first game against Haiti. I get the feeling that he's very much coming around to the idea of a 4-4-2, 2 strikers. He also spoke a little bit about Ben Gannon-Doak today, and obviously I think he's hoping that Ben Gannon-Doak gets some minutes for Bournemouth tonight against Man City. Massive game for both of these clubs, actually. Ben Gannon-Doak has been back to fitness but not playing regularly ever since it was November when he did his hamstring. And remember in the first open exchanges of the dramatic night against Denmark, he's not really been seen much since. But just listening to Steve Clarke today, I don't know about you, Scotty, you were sitting next to me, I get the feeling that Steve Clarke is very, very keen now to tailor his preparations in the best fashion that means that Ben Gannon-Doak is available for that first game. I think he senses the importance of that. You asked me the other night, Dan, do I think Shankland should start? I said, yep, 100% against Haiti. I get the feeling that it's all in Steve Clarke's mind right now, and by the way, that could be subject to change. In his head, the way he was speaking today, I think he's going 4-4-2, 2 strikers. I think one of them will be Shankland, and I think he'll play Ben Doak. And what's not to like about that?
Do you think Ben Doak will play wide in a 4-4-2, Jacko, or off the front?
I think that he would probably have 3 more central mid, so maybe it's McGinn, McTominay and Billy Gilmore, although he usually leaves Billy Gilmore out the first game today. But that would make sense. So McGinn would kind of come in off one side, and it would provide the midfield with a balance to let Doak just go and play. And I think we've seen touches of that, and I think that will be the way that we set up in that first game, as long as we obviously don't get any more injuries, Scott. But I think that's the reason what I was kind of getting at there, that he's named 5 strikers. because in at least one of these games, probably just the one if you're being serious about it, is he going to go with 2 up top against Brazil and Morocco? I'm not entirely sure about that, but I do think that'll be his plan for the opening game, and the opening game could be, well, it almost certainly will be the most important game of the 3 for us, because if we can post 3 points on the board in the opening game, we'd need to roll a double 6 not to qualify. That's not to say us being Scottish won't manage to achieve that, because we will always find a way. But 3 points from the first game, that's the make or break for the whole group campaign here. And I think, and I like to say this, that Steve Clarke is ready to take the handbrake off us for that game. And we've complained about that not being the case in the 2 previous tournaments. I so want to see us play with freedom and expression, and with our best attacking players' options on the pitch. And I think that's what Steve Clarke's aiming towards for the opening match.
I totally agree, Jacko. I mean, it's actually a bit unlike Steve Clarke. They almost kind of let the cat out of the bag talking about the 2 strikers. He actually said for at least one game, it's told you he's got Haiti in his mind for 4-4-2. And I agree. I think Gannon Doak has to start. I mean, this I think the squad, if it lacks anything, it's a bit of pace. I think that's part of the reason why Finlay Curtis is also in there.
100% it is, because if Ben Gannon, if they need to share the responsibilities, they almost need to job share, because Ben Gannon Doak is obviously not going to be 100% up to full speed because of a lack of games. But if they can job share the role, not saying that Finlay Curtis is Ben Gannon Doak's quality yet, but he's an exciting young player and he's got goals in him. So if they can share that role, I'm perfectly happy with that, and it makes you understand a little bit if he's had to make difficult decisions. Clearly, he has with Lennon Miller. Lennon Miller, it's more difficult to envisage a situation where Lennon Miller's going to have to go into the centre midfield than it is a situation where you might need Finlay Curtis to stand in for Ben Doak, either during a game or at the start of it.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, my gripe maybe with Lennon Miller, we talked about it today, and I know it's different positions, but it's just the inclusion of Tony Ralston amongst the defenders, because he's obviously got 3 right backs. We kind of know why, because I think there is a concern there for Steve Clarke about the fitness of Aaron Hickey and Nathan Patterson. And Ralston, he's obviously been a kind of reliable servant for him. But there is a lot of defenders in there, with the 3 right backs. I think there's 5 centre backs. I mean, could one of them have been sacrificed to get a Lennon Miller?
Oh, man, all of them might get a start against Brazil.
That's a fair point.
But I agree. I think the first game he'll go 2 up, and I think it'll probably be Adams and Shankland. Shankland's got the ability to kind of drop off the front as well, as he's kind of shown at Hearts, which might come in handy. And I agree, Jack. I think if he's going to go with that system and get Gannon Doak playing, then you go with 3 other kind of more defensive-minded midfielders. You still want to get McGinn and McTominay in there. But I would probably go with Gilmer and McTominay in the middle, with McGinn on the other side, because obviously McGinn's so good at tucking in.
Tucking in and makes that 3, yeah.
So in theory, that looks pretty good. I'd be surprised if it differs too much for the first game. And Steve Clarke's no daft, like you say, Jacko. I mean, he must know this is a must-win game. That first game's absolute must-win. That can genuinely make or break your tournament. So
the party could be burst on night 1 if we don't get that one. It could become a long couple of weeks, boys.
We've got tons of comments coming in already. Let me throw a few of these at you. Scott's one of a few people asking, is Lennon Miller playing regularly? He's played 27 games this season for Udinese. He's played 3 in the last month, started 2 of them in Serie A. So he seems to be playing pretty regularly. Stephen is one of a few saying,
I think he's still feeling his way into life and saying, no wonder. I mean, it's a big move. So I do think that he's still feeling his way in. Lennon Miller's going to be an absolute mainstay of this Scotland side moving forward. I feel really sorry for him because this will sting him, but it might also motivate him,
Aye. You can see there on the screen, David is one of a few people asking about the goalkeepers. Green Machine says a 43-year-old goalkeeper's got to be some sort of record. He'll be the oldest player ever at the World Cup, Craig Gordon.
Who are the people keep moaning about who are the goalkeepers they want to pick?
I know.
Where's the rest of the... I'm a bit bemused as to who people want to be the goalies at the World Cup, because as far as I can see, there's no other contenders. I mean, personally, I'm delighted Craig Gordon's back in the fold. 40 or no, I still think he's our best keeper. No, when he's fully fit and he's on his game, I think Jacko agrees. He'd definitely be my number one as long as he proves his fitness the next couple of weeks. So
Scotty would have been my number one at the Euros 2 years ago.
Aye,
exactly. Exactly.
So, yeah, and look, it's not Craig Gordon's fault that we've not got many other kind of options there. But it's a tough area of the pitch. We Steve Clarke. It's not as if he's taken his pick from 5 or 6 superb options. That's why Craig Gordon's there. But Craig Gordon's there also because he's probably the most reliable and the best operator out of all the options. I think Craig Gordon goes there as number one. And I thought at one point today, although I did pick up Steve Clarke and ask him about it, I thought he almost said as much. Again, almost let the cat out of the bag where he was talking about, well, if we need to take Craig Gordon out of the team. Yeah. So I then asked for a bit of clarity on that. He then said I was reading too much into it. But it did sound very... I don't know about you, Scott, but did you not pick up on that as well?
I totally agree.
You said Craig Gordon number one.
Totally agree. If Gordon proves his fitness, with all due respect, you're not sending Chris Wood, your goalie coach, up to Hearts training
just to watch him, man.
Watch Craig Gordon if he's going to be your second or third choice in America. No, clearly Steve Clarke wants him as number one. No, fully fit Craig Gordon, irrespective of age, as your number one keeper. That's with all due respect to Angus Gunn, who's done a good job for us, especially in that qualifying campaign. Or Liam Kelly, who I think was always going to go as the third choice. But no, Angus Gunn's no playing regular football. Obviously, Craig Gordon hasn't been either due to injury. And Gunn, no, he started the Euros and no, without being unkind, I don't think covered himself in glory at the last Euros. So I think Craig Gordon deserves this shot. No, he missed the Euros the last time. He was devastated. And as I say, it doesn't matter what age he is. If he's fit and on form, even if it's only in training, I've also got a couple of friendlies still to come. He's undoubtedly your number one. And as I say, I don't know who people would expect or who people are expecting to come in. I mean, Scott Bain, John McCracken, people like that. I mean, come on, you can't compare these guys with Craig Gordon, surely.
Listen, you just need to. I just refer you to the save that Craig Gordon made, and I know he didn't play a lot of football this season, but the save was at Dens Park, wasn't it?
It was outrageous.
Where he's pulled that off. I mean, listen, if he's still capable of pulling off saves like that, the guys that he's up against, as competent as they are as goalkeepers, they don't have that save in their locker. And at the top of their game, at their prime, Craig Gordon can still pull saves like that off. And just one of them at the World Cup, it might make all the difference.
Could make the difference, eh?
It shows you how long a season it's been. I was thinking about that save today, and automatically I just thought it was last season. I can't believe it was still actually this season. So you're totally right, Jacko, for him to be pulling off saves like that, only a matter of months ago. Get him back fit and get him in there. He's definitely your number one.
I'm a great guy in the comments says Craig Gordon was a year below Martin O'Neill in school, which is an interesting fact. Other comments that are coming in as well. Green Machine says Brazil, Morocco need the footballing gods or Scottish VAR to get as a result. That'd be good. Chick says freedom and expression, Keith. That's hippie football. Stick to the system. Bartholomew says, what's the odds of Trump taking up in a kilt, drinking bucky with a half bottle of his sporring? We'll need to see.
Listen, Donald Trump is going to attach himself to either us or England. We know this, right? Because
it'll be Scotland, won't it, annoyingly?
It'll be us.
Well, I think that we should be spending a special envoy over there just to say, look, Donald, don't attach yourself to us. We'll be losers. We're going to get humping. We could be one of the first teams to leave. Attach yourself to success. You know, you like the royal family, you like all that stuff. Go and attach yourself to the England camp.
Aye, definitely.
Please don't.
This one, I like this comment though. Ramming Speed says, these debates won't matter. Quantum mechanics teaches us the universe is probabilistic, not deterministic. Therefore, Scotland will win the World Cup by probability.
I don't understand a word of that, Daniel. I'm sorry.
This one as well. Your loyal Muppet says, surprise Connor Barron's not included. And a few people, Ross McCormack saying, James Forrest, Stephen O'Donnell missing out. James Forrest, I can see the merit, but he was never going to get called up at this point, was he?
Well, I think look, see when he get called up for the Euros, I thought he should start, and I thought that Steve Clarke was going to do something really bold and maybe go to a 5 at the back and play James Forrest in a wing back sort of position. Not saying he would have definitely done that against Germany in the first game, but James Forrest was on fire at the end of that season. And I thought it was such a good move to get him into the squad. But James Forrest went there and carried the hampers.
Yeah.
Went up and down a mountain. You know, yodelay, yodeloo. That was the extent of James Forrest's Euros. I'm not sure it would have been fair to even think about getting him to sacrifice another summer to go across and just, you know, sit watching a World Cup. And James Forrest isn't. I mean, you know what I think of James Forrest, but he's not. He's not ended this season in the sort of dynamic, sparkling form that he did that one before the Euros, and he didn't make any inroads into Steve Clarke's starting 11. Stephen O'Donnell is an interesting one because Scott's saying we are kind of heavy, lopsided a little bit with 3 right backs, and I think we've got 3 right backs because there are fitness concerns over Aaron Hickey and Nathan Patterson. Therefore, a space has been made for Tony Ralston to be there as, seems to me, like third man cover. Now, if you'd gone for Stephen O'Donnell, there you've got a guy who, by the way, has had probably the best season of his entire career, has got international experience and can play at right back, right of a 3, or even as centre half as he's done throughout this season at Motherwell. So that would have given you versatility and experience, and a player who has had an absolutely incredible season. And I couldn't have argued if a decision like that had been made. But, you know, Steve Clarke has been loyal towards Tony Ralston. I admire a bit of that as well. I admire a bit of that. That he looks after guys that have done him a turn, and he knows that he can depend on Tony Ralston if required.
Aye. I can still hear you great, Keith, but your screen is frozen, and as one of the comments says, you're in the catalogue pose, which is good. I mean, it could have saved you in any pose, but it's actually quite a good one. Bartholomew says you've taken a stroke thinking about Trump, maybe.
That's probably that.
Aye.
I can see that as like a kind of saga catalogue pose. Hold on. I'll jump off and jump back on again.
No worries. Whilst Keith does that, Scott, Connor Barron.
I says to you earlier, Dan, I just thought he had an outside chance of getting in. But he's went with not only has he went with tried and tested kind of midfield, he's actually left that guy out, Lennon Miller, who's been in the last few squads. I think he explained it today, Steve Clarke, Jacko touched on it there. I think he had a shot. I think the defenders, that amount of defenders were always going. I think listening to him, however, he decided it was going to be one more midfielder or one more forward, and he's went with in our forward. Obviously, he's got gave Ross Stewart a call up. It's probably the biggest surprise of the day. But he clearly felt he wanted to go slightly more top heavy with forwards as opposed to midfielders. So, listen, I think guys like Barron, I think you guys in the fringes, guys that were in the last squad, Ross McCrory was another one that was probably pushing, try to get in as well, and they've just missed out. But no, I mean, listen, I don't think we were expecting many big surprises today. I think we all kind of felt Finlay Curtis had done enough to get himself in there, and obviously his youthfulness, the energy, pace that we're talking about is going in his favour. But Ross Stewart was probably the one that we weren't expecting.
Well, the Ross Stewart one as well. Ollie McBurnie is the other striker that was, I think, kind of lobbying to go, and his club, Hull City, today put out a tweet just after Scotland put the squad out saying 18 goals this season, by the way. Did either of you think, I mean, he should be involved, or is it fair enough he's left out?
Right,
Ross Stewart's got 9 goals, by the way, in the same league.
Yeah, right, so a couple of things. We've spoken about this before on the show, Dan. So today's press conference or announcement, there's 2 sections to it. There's the broadcast section. The broadcast media get to ask a bunch of questions. And then there's an embargoed section where it's the guys for the daily newspapers that get to ask some questions. There will be stuff later on, Steve Clarke addressing the Ollie McBurnie situation. And can't give that away just now, 10:30 tonight. There will also be a really, really interesting line about Steve Clarke and his own position with Scotland. Because that's been a matter of some debate over the last while. He came out and said that he wanted to stay. The SFA hadn't offered him a contract. We managed to get a little bit more clarity on that when we were asking the questions. And he did, as I said, address McBurnie, and I think that's pretty interesting as well. I mean, if it's me, I don't think that Ollie McBurnie has done enough. I think he's much improved this season at Hull. He has been scoring goals. He'll probably feel there's an argument there as to, he should have been included if other guys that are playing the same division in the same position have got the call. Why is he getting ignored? Because I'm sure that he feels as if he's been absolutely cold-shouldered by Steve Clarke. But I noted with interest, before he went into the kind of embargoed part of the press conference, he was asked about Ross Stewart and what he brings to the squad. And he was fulsome in his praise about Ross Stewart, the type of guy that he is, how he settles into the squad, how he feels comfortable and the guys feel comfortable around him. You've heard the old good teammate chat. I almost felt as if that was said. It could have been said on the other end of the phone to Ollie McBurnie, in the phone call that Ollie McBurnie made to Steve Clarke a few weeks ago, asking what it is that he had to do to get himself into consideration. I just wonder if there was a bit of messaging there. And I didn't expect Ollie McBurnie to make the squad, even though I fully accept that he's had a very, very good season and he has scored a lot of goals for Hull. And
few people asking, has Ross Stewart ever been capped? He's got 2 caps, not since
2022
was the last cap.
So if you were looking for experience, Ollie McBurnie would argue that he's got 8 times the amount of caps that Ross Stewart has. He's got 16 caps. But the bottom line is there's not a goal between the pair of them. So
and without being unkind, I don't know what you think, Scott, Ollie McBurnie, when he's played for Scotland, he's not exactly tore it up, has he?
No, he hasn't. But I mean, try to stick up for him slightly. I mean, you almost forget that he was in that squad that got to the first Euros, Euro 2020. I mean, you forget he scored one of the penalties in the shootout in Belgrade, to get us back to a major final. So certainly at that point in time, Steve Clarke must have valued him, not just as a player, but also within the squad, because you obviously associate that squad with a real kind of camaraderie that they had. Do you remember those scenes in Belgrade that night? David Marshall penalty save and all that. So, for a while, Ollie McBurnie had that going for him. He obviously then had a spell out of it. And again, to his credit, he's come back. He obviously had a year in Spain, but he's come back into English football, back to Yorkshire again, where he comes from. He's went to Hull. And he's had a brilliant season, to be fair. I spoke to him not that long ago. I did an interview with him a couple of months ago, and he genuinely felt, this is the best football his career that he's playing. He feels like what he's been through, going abroad, different experiences on and off the pitch, it just made him a better player, better person. So I can understand why he feels that he had a strong case. And Jacko's right. He probably looks at guys like Ross Stewart and George Hurst in the same league and he's thinking, well, what do I need to do here? I'm scoring more goals than these guys. But we know Steve Clarke is he can be very specific in terms of the type of character, the type of player, how they fit in, what they've done from the past. And you said today, talking about, I think he was just talking in general about the players that he'd picked, saying, no, they know what I expect, that kind of thing. I think he likes people that he can rely on and he can trust. And whether Ollie McBurnie doesn't fall into that, who knows? But I can understand why McBurnie feels a bit aggrieved. But like Jacko, did I really expect him to be in the squad? Probably not. I mean, I didn't expect Ross Stewart to be in it either, if I'm being honest. But McBurnie might consider himself a wee bit unlucky, given the fact he's got 17 goals in the Championship, 18 in total, which is a pretty decent return. And of course, on Saturday, if there's no any further fallout for Spygate, McBurnie and Ross Stewart will go head to head at Wembley. So I can imagine Ollie McBurnie will be pretty motivated to go and do well in that game and outshine his fellow Scot.
I think, Scott, that Ollie McBurnie's one of the biggest things that probably counts against him is I think he's capable of erratic decision making, whether it's on the park or off the park. And I would just go as far as to say the fact that he phoned Steve Clarke to ask that question probably wasn't one of his shrewder moves. And the fact that he then went public and gave an interview down south saying that he had that conversation and he'd made that phone call, that would have done nothing to endear him to Steve Clarke. He might have shot himself right in the foot with that.
One more visit to the comments before we talk about one other domestic issue that I want to bring up. So let me throw a few of these at you. Bartholomew says, I'm actually buzzing for the World Cup. It's the best squad since the late 70s, early 80s, when Souness, Strack and Dalglish were all in their pomp. I'm a great guy, says Sam Nicholson is the backup goalie list with a safe pair of hands. Francis says, I'd have gone and called up Baron Trump. He played football, his granny's from Lewis, he's 8 foot tall, and his dad owns FIFA. Listen, there's been worse shouts. And Peter wants to know, Keith, would you get a photo with Donald Trump in the press box if the opportunity presented itself?
I think I'd politely decline.
Daniel, if that did happen, it'll be Trump asking Jacko for a picture.
I was going to do an impression there. I love you on the hotline.
Is it Kazakhstan president?
That sounded a wee bit seedy there.
That was Borat. I can't believe I just did that. Anyway, Rangers, last thing I want to talk about. Our esteemed colleague Andy Newport had a story on the Record Sport Online earlier on today about Rangers potentially increasing the capacity at Ibrox, Scott. It's already a pretty big stadium.
Well, it's been talked about for long enough, Daniel. I was actually there when Jim Gillespie, new chief exec, was talking about it, and we need to stress that's at the very early stages. I think he said it's the kind of feasibility stage. I think they've got architects and people like that working on it. It is interesting, though. I mean, interesting if they could, carry it through and get it done. What's Ibrox now? I think 51,000 capacity. If they could get it up, I know they've got a long. Like Celtic, they've got a long waiting list for season tickets. So it's definitely something Andrew Kavanagh and the new owners have been speaking about pretty much since they came in. However, I think in terms of a priority list, that will be pretty low down in terms of what Rangers need to do this summer. And look, I know all these off-field things will kind of, hopefully for Rangers, coincide with the stuff on the pitch. They'll be try to do both, but in terms of what Rangers need to do over the summer, as I say, I think there's more important matters to deal with in terms of revamping that squad and trying to tool up Danny Rowe for a proper title challenge next season.
Summed it up pretty well, Keith. I can't really see it happening anytime soon. And McKenna, a resident Hearts fan, It says they'll have more fans to boo the players. Everyone's on fire in the comments tonight, I tell you what.
Look, I think we mentioned on the show in one of their early fact-finding missions when they were in the process of trying to buy control and interest in Rangers, they went to, and this is very early on in the process actually, they went to Auchenhowie to be given a guided tour around the scenes there. They went to Ibrox, and they were actively at that point drawing up plans for changes that they wanted to make to the facilities at Auchenhowie, but also how they could expand the stadium, where they could look for stadium expansion. It's something that has been a high priority for them since, because they're looking to maximise income streams, and that's the main income stream for Scottish clubs, especially if it's not from European football, then it's from matchday attendances. Because we don't have a kind of Premier League style TV deal. So it's an easy, you don't need to be the business brain of the world to work out. If you want to increase your potential incomes, then you increase the amount of seats that you've got to sell on a Saturday afternoon. And I've been fairly certain that since that initial fact-finding mission, that's where they would go with this, that there will be some sort of stadium expansion. It remains to be seen what plans they go with, how extensive, how many more seats they want to add to it. But yeah, the Americans are all about increasing the stadium capacity, but also increasing the sort of match day experience and improving it. And they go. It's so important to the business model in American sports that guys are turning up, they're spending money, they're at the stadium for hours. There's this entertainment, there's all these different things that American sport is miles in front of us. Our guys just go because they want to watch football. But the Americans actually take a bit of care of looking after their customers.
It's a day out
on a match day, and you would imagine, certainly that's what I was told when we were initially investigating this possible takeover, was that was one of the key areas that they thought that they could improve. And you look at the way that Scottish fans are treated in general, and it's pretty hard not to come to the same conclusion that our game could do a whole lot more to improve the fan experience in a match day, for sure.
Sorry, were you going to jump in there, Scott?
No.
Sorry. Sorry, I thought you were trying to come in. Well, look, I think that more or less brings us to the end of Tuesday night's Hotline Live, brought to you by Record Sport. Thanks so much for all the comments. We massively appreciate it. And we'll be back to do it all at 6 p.m. tomorrow. I'm sorry again about the Trump impression. I'll need to go in and have a look at myself. But Keith, Scott, it's an absolute pleasure. What
we got to do, make Angus Gunn great again.
That would be a start. That'd be pretty good, actually. Scott, it's always a pleasure.
Top man. Cheers, Dan.
Thanks very much for watching. Hope we can join us tomorrow. Cheers.